So the mic wasn't working, so that's not a good way to start. But this is Sunday morning, it's kind of like a Monday morning, and we're in our home studio, and we decided we're going to talk about some of our videos and our whole process of expansive sound. Now, the whole idea of expansive sound, I'm a fan of Electric Ghost, and my true name's Keith Gittens Jones. The guy behind Phantom Electric Ghost, I'm a producer, and we call it DAWless producer. You can see behind me. Get out the way. You can see my the stack of synths over there. You can see a bunch of modular gear and some other stuff. But what the whole point of DAWless recording is, we use a hardware recorder. In this case, we use a Zoom R24 24-track recorder hooked up to an MX1 performance mixer, and then all of the hardware instruments are connected to the MX1, which allows me to have really interesting control, because I basically have two mixers. I have this Roland performance mixer that allows me to assign effects to each line, and I can even bring in something like an OPZ, Teenage Engineering synth. It's a little tiny little synth. That's pretty cool. I think I'll bring it on in a second. I'll bring it on now. So this is the OPZ, and put my earpiece back on. So what's cool about the OPZ is the OPZ is a little micro synth about the size of a TV remote. And what's cool about it compared to the OP1, which had this idea of a 4-track concept, like a Tascam or a Fostex from the 80s. And cool thing about this is a low digital synth, but it has a 16-track sequencer, and it has a sampler, which was added later. And then it has these endless encoders, which you just circle them around, and they just go around. You can do control LFOs, you can control pitch, you control envelopes, all kinds of stuff. But it's really cool because you could be sitting in bed or on a plane or anywhere and actually write a song. You put headphones on, you use your voice, you can actually hook it up to a laptop and do a sample, and then use that sample in the song. So a lot of times what we like is it has a really cool capability on the drum machine. You can mute and unmute, like the kick and the hi-hat and samples and stuff. So you can individually have all your drum tracks, all your leads and everything, and mute and unmute. And you can, I think Cuckoo had actually done some performances with this thing, and we tend to use it like an 808 or a 727, and we use it for a lot of rhythm. So we actually could turn it on. And that's just one beat we did with it. That's another beat. Let's see another one. It's pretty cool because you can just throw it together. And then that's just where you just muted, and we're just having like the hi-hat and the kick. So you can use something like that, and then they can like start to introduce the sample. No, actually, I might use that in a new song. Yeah, so this thing is really addictive. You can do a lot of stuff with this. And this is from Teenage Engineering. We don't really work for them, but we like all kinds of gear. We got Moogs, we got stuff, but this is another example. So as a hardware synth enthusiast, they're taking something like this OPZ, and then introducing that into a live recording. Like, so we bring it into the MX1 because it has like an eighth of an inch line, and you can we can take that eighth of an inch line, and you can just hook it up right there and right into the MX1, and then from there, then you can. The cool thing about the MX1 performance mixer from Roland is it has an actual beat sequencer, which allows you to have 16 steps and have different effects on every step. So as the mixer is running, you can put it on a sequencer. You can set a tempo, like 120 beats per minute or something, and then you can actually assign like a chorus to the first step, digital delay to the fourth step, a bit crush to the fifth step, and so on and so on. And then in real time, you can switch those around, where you could turn it off, turn it back on. So that gives you like a lot of kind of DJ like improvisation while you're recording. And then we have that going into the Zoom, and then the Zoom records everything. And then in addition, we've got the BeatStep Pro, which is a really cool sequencer. We had it since 2016. It's got 3 lines of sequencing. And before you had like all these things from like, all these external MIDI controllers that are grid-based. Before you had all the, these kind of beat stations and things like that. And the BeatStep Pro allows us to connect a couple instruments. We got a JDXI from Roland, which is a hybrid analog digital synth. And we have it within that JDXI is a bunch of history of all the Roland drum machines. And so our 808 that we use comes out of JDXI, which, the 808 is a famous Roland drum machine. But within the JDXI, if you just tried to use it, you could only do like 4 bars. And that's kind of limiting. But once you hook up the BeatStep Pro from Arturia, it can do like 64 steps, and you can do chain patterns. What we like is because it's a pad-based MIDI controller, you can have like a project. And then what's cool about it is very, kind of seamless load time. So we could have project 1 and then go to project 4. And if they're in the same kind of beat, we can actually tie those together in a performance and bounce around. And so it gives us a lot of flexibility in our drum sound. And we've been using that for years in our live performances. It's a really good drum machine to kind of play with because you can immediately just put together a beat. And then in addition, it can control like, 3 sequencers at once. So it's a drum sequencer on the JDXI. And also on the JDXI, we can have it talk to the analog part or talk to the digital part because the JDXI has like 4 parts, 2 digital, 1 analog, and a drum. So we got the drum hooked up to the drum part, but then we've got like one of the digital parts hooked in is the actual digital part of the JDXI. And then we have a System 1M, which is a really cool synth. We got it rack mounted. It's a Roland analog behavioral synth. And if anybody has a System 8, they kind of know what we're talking about, or if they have any of the boutiques. So it can simulate like famous Roland System 100. It can simulate an SH-101. I think it can do a Pro Mars. We just got it on the bass level. And on the bass level, this synth has like this history of Roland's analog synthesis. And what I like about it, it's got sliders for the envelopes. And it's got, 2 oscillators and a noise generator. It's got a sub oscillator, and it's got digital delay and some crush effects. But it just has this cinematic sound that we use it for a lot of ambient cinematic type sounds in our music. And it can actually do really good percussion. We've been able to get it to do very good drums. So on some songs, what we'll do is we'll have polyrhythms going forth. We'll have a JDXI like 808, a Moog DFAM, which is a drummer from another mother, and then we'll have a System 1M with maybe some white noise and build it like a tom or a kettle drum or an African drum or a taiko drum kind of sound. We'll kind of design that, and then we'll have that introduced. And then in addition, we get into this like kind of Nine Inch Nails vibe with our Make Noise products. We we have a make noise sampler, which is the Morphogene. It's a Eurorack sampler. And what's cool about it is it doesn't have a screen per se. You can go onto a computer, you can see what it's doing. But in the Eurorack module, it's just got like lights. And if something's green, then that's actually in the same time that it was recorded. If it starts to go purple, it starts to get slower, it starts to speed up. Different colors represent different aspects of the sample. You can clip it, you can put it into genes, you can put them into splices, and then you have this morph feature, which I think people can see on the new Arturia Polybrute, is you can take one sample and then morph it into another sample, or you can take within the sample, you can morph time zones. So what's cool about it is like they say you got a 3-minute sample, you can merge the first 30 seconds with, minute 2 at 2 minutes, and have the middle of the sample or like the 2-minute part of the sample actually merging with the beginning of the sample at the same time, which causes a really cool kind of tape looping, kind of George Martin, kind of psychedelic backward tape looping kind of ideas. But that gives you another capability. So then if you think about that, if you take in an OPZ beat, like we were talking about, you bring in something like, when I get the sample out of there, you take a beat like that, then you introduce like some white noise or some other noise coming from some of the other synths and some other polyrhythms. You can do some really interesting things. And this beat kind of really keeps the beat in the song. And then you could introduce other parts like the sample. And one cool thing about this synth, which is really different than some other synths, is on every step of this synth, you have this idea called subcomponents. And it's like every one of these little buttons has a little like extra set of functions above it. And some of them are like, if you go and select one of the functions, it will actually do like rolls. So if you're doing like drums, you can do like a roll is what's going to do like 8 beats into the roll or 4 beats in the roll. And then it's got like a crescendo, decrescendos. It's got like LFOs and envelopes and different types of triggers. And the cool thing is you can have like 16 triggers on one note. So all this strange is happening. And then you also can have a capability to say, oh, well, this note's going to come in and it's going to change. It's going to come in on the 3rd beat, or it's going to come in on the 4th measure, or it's going to come in on the 5th measure, and it's going to randomly come in at different times, which gives, if you're a person that's doing like a one-person band like myself, having a device that can do that is cool. The other thing we do is we use like clocks, like MIDI clocks, on analog synths to trigger other events to happen. We use like LFOs to trigger. One big trick is we use like an Arturia Mini-Brute 2S, which we have, has 2 LFOs, and we can have the LFOs of that Arturia actually triggering the DFAM, which is the drummer from Another Mother, the Mode synth. And in the other case, sometimes we can have the sampler. The Morphogene sampler can trigger the beat on the DFAM. Or we'll have a Mother 32 trigger beats on the DFAM. Or have a DFAM trigger the Mother 32. So a lot of times you can get into the rabbit hole of what you can do with all these synths. But we're going to get into one of the songs that we wrote. So this is a song we called Hex Vex Dead. It's on one of our latest albums. We could put so much stuff out. You could probably just find it on Spotify. And we're going to play the video for this, which shows our studio kind of stylized and effectized, if that's a word. And we're going to get into that right now.
Is it all about sex? We can read that in What's giving you up? Keep your reader in the magazine in back. Hey, darling, miss me. Do you remember that magazine you in there? I know I'm in a bed. That's why I always want you to go. Ain't turning darling. Do you mean that in bed? How come all your lover call you welfare? All your lovers call you welfare. Ain't turning darling. Got a new trick on you, Rich. How come all your darling call you welfare? I call you the best. And then I'm dead. I call you real. You're my little friend. Ain't doing it for me. Oh, baby. Daddy, call you Miss Death. Hey, dirty darling, they call you the bear. You'll be no true next hand. Hey, there. Hey, dirty darling, they call you Wilfred. No. They call you bear.
You know, all these guitars are actually coming from the Roland Juno GI in combination with the Moog Mother 32. And it's actually being played live. It's not a sample. The Roland Juno has this capability of supernatural sounds, and they can mimic a guitar. And over the last 5 years, I spent a lot of time trying to get this guitar sound to really sound like a guitar. And so I try to introduce pitch bending and modulation, note bending, feedback. You can kind of get it. Now this song is about somebody that Josephine Electric, there's kind of, the idea is Josephine's a fanciful character I created. She's not a real person per se. I mean, she becomes real. She's a creation of the VT3 or VT4 vocal transformer. Now she is talking about a lover of hers, and Josephine's kind of risque. She's got male and female lovers, and she's got this lover that is into this romantic idea that the romantic poets called Little Death. Now, Little Death is a kind of subterfuge for sex. It's actually like the Victorians didn't want to get into the kind of details of the actual act. So the Little Death is how they express actually when people have an orgasm. So instead of saying, an orgasm, they talk about Little Death. And so Josephine likes to use this term with this lover that she had that's like really into Little Death, and that's what this whole song is kind of like, this kind of hex of that type of situation. So we'll stop that right now. We'll get to the next song in a second. So we'll get back to our main view. But the whole idea that when I created Josephine was this concept. It was I didn't like my deep voice that I have here, and some people probably like it. But I personally didn't like it in the mix. And one thing you might want to understand, like if you listen to a lot of music, you listen to like, Smokey Robinson, that falsetto. Prince has that falsetto. Freddie Mercury and David Bowie all use falsetto. It's like falsetto is kind of a vocal trick that musicians use in the mix, because when you're recording, sometimes if you have too deep a voice and you've got a lot of heavy synths and basses and all kinds of noise going, it just gets lost in the mix. And having that higher register, you get, if you think about it, like Led Zeppelin with Robert Plant, Axl Rose, and Guns N' Roses, a lot of the heavy metal bands, they all have these very high pitched kind of falsetto singers, because with all that heaviness going on, you kind of need something to cut through the mix. And so Josephine was my way, after experimenting with my male voice. I mean, I do have a small amount of songs that actually have my voice altered to a lower pitch. But it ends up sounding like Bob George. It sounds like some kind of fandom, like some kind of Star Wars Darth Vader thing. And that's a little much most of the time. You can't have all your songs sounding like that. And so the idea with Josephine was to come in and create this character. And we were very inspired by like the Gorillaz and the idea, like with the Gorillaz, Damon Albarn has this concept with, the art from Tank Girl, Jamie. And so what's cool there is that you can create this concept where it's not you, but it is you, but it's just like other version of you. And so the ultimate other me is Josephine Electric, who is the lead singer of Phantom Electric Ghost. And she is a creation of subtractive synthesis through vocoders, initially the JDXI in soprano mode. Then we moved to the VT3. Main reason because the JDXI has 4 parts, and the vocal part and the drum part, sometimes I couldn't control the level of the vocal versus the drum, and the drum would be too loud. So then I found a VT3 so I could separate the signal and just have the vocals on a vocal signal going into my MX1 separately instead of being combined with the JDXI. The vocal and the drum were all coming on the same track, and that's not a good thing to do when you're doing your engineering or mastering. You'd be like, what's this? Why is the drum so loud and it's on the same track? So that's a bad. So then we got the VT4. And the cool thing about the VT4 is that, the current evolution of Roland's vocoder technology is it's polyphonic, which means it's multiple notes, like 4-note polyphonic versus single note on the VT3. It can do harmony, so it can actually double your voice and make it sound like 2 Josephines. And when we do that, we kind of say, well, Josephine has a sister named Stephanie. And when they sing together in the band, it's got Josephine and Stephanie and Windhover. Their last names are Windhover. And they're ghosts, they're phantoms. They're 2 women, 2 sisters that kind of got stuck between this world and the next because they were tragically had accidents or were killed, and then they couldn't get to the next world, and then they decided they'd live in this world as musicians in this kind of fanciful band. And the full concept is, people who see the ghosts don't realize they're actually ghosts. They call themselves Phantom Electric Ghost, but they appear to be real when they're performing, but they're actually ethereal beings that can kind of shift. And we got a whole bunch of ideas and concepts with videos and stuff we put together that kind of talk about it. And the songs themselves kind of tell the story over time. With the songs we've released on Bentley Records in 2019, we actually released a song that gave Josephine's origin story. So anybody who knows the ghost, it's kind of a challenge. Go find our Bentley record release single that actually tells the origin of Josephine, and let me know on Facebook through a message which song that is. If you really follow us, then you know. So that's a challenge. And maybe you'll win a copy of my book, Cancer, if you get the right answer. Because I have like 30 copies of that book. And I actually started as a poet a long time ago. So we'll get back into the songs. We're going to play the next song on this playlist. So when we go cue it up and we'll bring it back in. And you still see the other song there, but we're going to cue it to the next song. And so here we go. Now this song is going to be called East Coast Beat, West Coast Sun. And it's an interesting song. And you actually see me in my Phantom gear, which is my LED hoodie and my LED Phantom mask, and we're actually looking to get a new Phantom mask. There's a new technology where we can talk about that on the backside. So here we go.
I'm just a mother, I'm just a mother, just my dude. Whatever you want to, we can surely get into. I'm a mother on dress for you. We can surely get into. I'm a mother on dress for you. We can surely do that too. We can surely do that too. Just me and you. I'm a mother, undressed for you. We can surely see me into that dude. We can surely see me into that tune. So we can open the mouth. And I'm over undressed you. Oh, we can surely both do that, dude. Until we get in and out of tune. Until we get to the fifth of June. It's whatever you don't want to do. It's whatever you want to consume. It's more than enough room. But do that you know inside of you. Do that you know inside of you. Oh, you know you wanna hit that raw. No, you wanna hit that wrong. No, you wanna hit that wrong. No, you wanna get it down. But don't it's a sun. No, you wanna get that wrong. It's sound. Everything is going wrong. No booker is sound. Everything get undone. You know this mothers get done wrong. And that's the point of the song. That the booker is son. You know we're all gonna get done. Done wrong. My mother's undressed by the end of the song. Get it down. Come on. Mother, undone. Know you're gonna have some fun. Open on sun. It's what it is. Ladder coming down like a ton. Ladder coming down one. I know that you don't wanna have fun. I know that you just wanna come. I know that you don't wanna have fun. You just want it down until you come. While it's undone. It's the weight of the gun, the coin that you won, and now we're all gonna get some. This mother's undone, it's the weight of the gas gun. This mother's undone. And now you can feel me, even if you don't come. Even if you don't come, son. You know that mother gets undone. Even if you're in and out, son. Over one. the movement is the sun. And when sunrise gets it done. And if the matter is the one, they calling it out, son. Did you come? That mode one. Did you come? Oscillator will make you feel undone. The oscillator make you really, really wanna. Did you come undone from the oscillator, son? Don't you know oscillator's mode can make me come?
Yeah, so that's Josephine getting a little untoward, like she usually does, and that's kind of the whole idea is that she's a little untoward. She's a little, well, she actually is like a sadomasochist dominatrix, alpha dominant one, and that's another song we did. And so she's like, this kind of New York scene, this kind of Warhol, Lou Reed, Velvet Underground kind of image, like Venus and Furs, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. And she's like on that other side, she's on that kind of dark side. And people get into that, whatever floats their boat. But the idea is that she's a ghost. So she kind of goes into this darkness and she's in between worlds. And she's a little frustrated that she can't leave this world. She's kind of stuck. That's the whole idea of a ghost. They're kind of stuck. And then, her way of handling it is kind of getting into outrageous sexual situations, or she also gets into like political type of things where she goes after people that she thinks are doing things wrong politically. She's kind of a hyper liberal, hypersexual individual, but she's very much in control of what she wants to do, and it's the idea that if she wants to get into something, that she's like, she's actually on top. She's controlling the situation. She's not being used. Though we do have songs where she has some vulnerability, where she feels like she's this tough woman, but sometimes she actually can fall in love, even though she tries to act like she can't. And we've kind of delved into the idea that because we like soul music, we like country music. Willie Nelson said, country music is because most people are not with the person they need to be with, right? So 90% of people are not with who they really want to be with. And that kind of creates that kind of country music song of like the longing. And then soul music, you have this kind of thing where, guy meets girl, girl dumps guy, girl gets dumped, guy gets the girl back, then happens all over again. Somebody steals somebody else away from somebody else, me, Mrs. Jones. So you get this idea, is this kind of romantic triangle going round, 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 round. And it's kind of where we like to mix genres. The whole idea with expansive sound is we like this the kind of soul sound of the Motown sound. You got like the Purdy Shuffle, you got the Funk Brothers, you got that really tight songcraft. And it's kind of like today where songs are very tight. They're only 3 minutes long, 2 minutes long. But the thing about the Motown sound is like they're very well constructed, and they have these stories that are really tight, and people still fall for the stories, like like Temptations, I Wish It Would Rain, My Girl, Tears of a Clown. These are songs that still hit people's heart. They really pull on them because they're well crafted. If they think about songs today, are people going to still be thinking about Tears of a Clown like the way some of the songs today? Maybe not. And then the other thing that we're into is like the singer-songwriters, and one of our core singer-songwriters that we love is Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan gives a lot of people hope, just like Lou Reed does, and that you don't have to be a perfect singer to say something. that you use more the poetry of Bob Dylan. Though I think his voice is awesome. I think he has actually multiple versions of his voice. And that kind of inspired us to do the multiple versions that we do with our vocoders. Because you have like the Nashville Skyline Dylan, you got the Arlo Guthrie, Woody Guthrie type Dylan. You've got, the kind of work he did on Tangled Up in Blue and Idiot Wind. You got stuff he did with Brian Eno. He can adjust his voice to be kind of a caricature of all types of music that he was influenced by. And I saw this Scorsese documentary, and he really is a changeling. He kind of molded himself into whatever was going to work. When he got on the scene, he was like a folkie. And then there was a rebellion when he went and became electric with the band, or the Blonde on Blonde band that he did. And there was people calling him Judas because he went against the folk aesthetic. And that kind of shows you like one thing in music, the fans sometimes can be very narrow-minded. Dylan fans, when he went out and did electric shows, they started yelling Judas. They said it was terrible. In the documentary from Scorsese, there are people saying that he's like the worst performer ever. And this is Bob Dylan. They considered like one of the greatest singer-songwriters in the world. But coming up, he was, people were throwing stuff at him saying he was terrible. And so, you can't always judge what the fans are saying at a certain point in time with what you're doing. You have to, as a songwriter and a producer, you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to believe in that you got a vision, even if people start throwing oranges and stuff at you, because at some point in time within the continuum of music, what is not cool becomes cool. If you think about like the Velvet Underground and Lou Reed, Andy Warhol, Lou Reed and the Velvets, they barely sold anything, but then almost every band in the 80s name-checked Lou as being their inspiration, from REM to Counting Crows to, like all these bands, we said, they wouldn't have gotten the music if they hadn't listened to the Velvets. Same thing with like a band like, which is to me the new Velvet Underground, is that Big Star, Alex Chilton, and that band, Chris Bell, that's one of my heartstring bands. I mean, the thing about the whole story with Alex Chilton, he was a teen star. He did the song The Letters. The Letter is a famous song. He was doing like as a teen, he was a soul kind of singer, like white soul singer, Blue-Eyed Soul. And he did that song The Letter, and then he really wanted to kind of clone the Beatles. So he came up with like a Beatle clone. It wasn't like the Monkees, and it wasn't like Badfinger. It actually was a band that, if you listen to the first 3 Big Star records, they're considered to be, 5-star records. Rolling Stone, Billboard, all these spin magazines. The first Big Star records, like the #1 record, Radio City, and then the third record is called Third. It's some of the greatest rock and roll music I've ever heard. And it was interesting because they were on Stax, which is a soul label, and Stax didn't know how to sell Big Star. They couldn't sell them because they're the label that had Otis Redding. So then they get this rock band that sounds like the Beatles, and it's like the 70s, and people aren't as in 71, 72, 73, people are as into the Beatles as they used to be. Zeppelin's kind of ruling the day. Funk bands are ruling the day, like Parliament Funkadelic, Earth, Wind and Fire, and they didn't know. They put them on the label, but they couldn't really sell them, and they didn't really promote them that good. And then Chris Bell actually tried to commit suicide, and so you got like one of the co-creators of the band in the middle of the promotion period tries to kill himself, which is not a good direction to go. And then the band couldn't really get a lot of support. And they toured and they tried to do the best they could. They kind of fell apart. But what the whole band point of the story is, they have this great catalog of 5-star level music. There's really great guitar playing, very unique. It's not heavily distorted. It's like lightly affected, and has very luscious, intricate parts between Chris Bell and Alex Chilton. And Alex Chilton's voice on these Big Star records is like one of the best, male vocal voices in rock and roll I've ever heard. It's very emotional, very evocative, and it just it pulls your heartstrings. And by the time you get to the third record, it actually kind of devolves a little bit, where he's like kind of depressed about what's going on, and it has like a Neil Young Tonight's the Night kind of falling apart. And this is kind of a preview of what happens in the alternative era, where you get bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots. And you get this idea that you can be emotional, you can talk about like, deep topics like suicide and drug abuse and abuse, it's domestic violence, all kinds of, that you can talk about these things in a song. You don't just have to talk about love, and you can have like bare emotion where you can feel like the singer is like crying, or they're very depressed, or they're emotional, like an actor doing a very I don't know, stream of consciousness, or what they call method acting type of performance from a musician. And that is something that I think I've always been really attracted to, is when artists really bare their soul and tell the truth as much as they can, or some form of truth that's, it can be jarring. It can be a little intense. It's like reading a classic novel, like a great American novel. It is something that I always strive for in my music. So we just wanted to talk about some of the stuff we have. Now we're going to play one last tune that we put together that we like a lot, and we're going to get into that with our YouTube video. So when we cue that up, the next video after this one, which was East Coast, West Coast Sun, and I know there was a lot of sex in these songs, so if those who get offended, I'm sorry about that. But so the next song we're going to get to it, is Live Precious Raw Material. What's here is an interesting new effect that we came up with, that we put on the video after the fact, where we kind of actually get this idea that I've become a phantom, which is the whole point of a phantom. Like the ghost is to be a phantom.
I got a girl on my mind. She is more than fine. She can in line. When I look into her eyes, she keeps me alive. She gave me a night. I feel over. Precious is the time I gaze into her eyes. I'm precious in the night. When I catch a glimpse of her, you're holding her tight. I want her every way. Everybody knows that I'm so afraid that she just comes for the way. I know that without prayer, I'm so afraid of everything. Where she's going now. I just had to get up there tonight. I gotta know everything's gonna be over. I know it's not my plan. Oh, you're gonna be when I got it. Your profile says that you're not single. I know I shouldn't be afraid. I should try my lady. I shouldn't be so damn crazy. I should just mind a baby. Maybe she forgot to take off the lid. That's so afraid, please, baby. I don't want to ask her again. I know it's a difference with the best friend. I want to get back this game. I should try, baby. I shouldn't be going crazy. I know she's with her friend. I just don't hope I stick it in.
Well, that's a little weird. I didn't know that it flipped like that. Well, I guess it's good if he flipped. I don't know if that's a problem. Yeah, that's in the original video. That's weird. But you get the idea. Well, let's stop it now. It's like it's not supposed to be upside down. But we're back. So, yeah, it's Sunday morning, and this is Fam Electric Ghost, and we had a little flipped video. I don't know how that happened, because I was using like a Zoom Q8, and it didn't flip, so I don't know how that happened. It was like some kind of YouTube error or something. But we're gonna be maybe doing a live performance today in our home studio. We're gonna write a song, and if we like it, then we'll actually, by the second take, we'll run it live on all of our channels. Right now, we're live on Facebook, Fam Electric Ghost. We're live on our YouTube channel, Fam Electric Ghost, and on our Twitch channel, Fam Electric Ghost, courtesy of StreamYard. The other thing we like to talk about is that we do have a working relationship with Wicked Flannel. So if you go out to wickedflannel.com and you do Fam Electric as a coupon code, you get 15% off awesome flannel shirts. So check that out. It's wickedflannel.com. Use the coupon code Fam Electric. You get a discount. For those of you boys and girls that are a little more naughty, you can go to gvibe.com and check out some stuff there. And some of our episodes have that link. So if you go look at our podcast episodes on Anchor FM, especially the Josephine Electric ones, have that kind of naughty link there. So for naughty boys and girls. But yeah, we're going to be getting into a recording session today. And we'll also be doing our taxes again. So we're not happy about doing that. But in between doing our taxes and saying that we're kind of fed up with that, we'll go do a recording session. So thank you for listening to The Ghost, and we're signing off. Remember to go to our SoundCloud, and you can hit the COVID-19 support button. And if you hit that button, you can donate whatever you want, like 99 cents or whatever. It helps keep our live interview program going. So go out to our Spotify. You'll see there's a button on our profile. And this button is out there for almost every artist. So we like to also say, like, even if you don't want to support The Ghost, go check out a SoundCloud artist or on Spotify, any of the major artists there. Because artists can't tour right now, it's important, just like a lot of people support YouTubers with their support buttons. It would be cool, whether you support The Ghost or not, go to your favorite indie artist or artist and hit the support button, give them like $5 or $2 or whatever. Because, you know, a lot of artists have day jobs and are struggling. We're doing okay. But again, our podcast, in order to do some things that we want to do in the future, one of the things we want to do before we sign off is all the guests that we've had on our podcast where we interview folks. We want to do a live streaming concert event with every band that we've ever interviewed over like a multiple day period. So we've got bands that we've interviewed from like Sweden, Netherlands, Austria, Germany, all kinds of different places, and have them at a certain time zone, which would probably be in the morning, and then bands from like the West Coast be at nighttime, and then bands from the East Coast during the day, actually stream from their own studios or from venues that they can get, and do a show, and then have like a Patreon or PayPal set up so everybody gets support, and maybe get some sponsors to sponsor this, so we could actually have bands in certain venues, by them, not actually with a crowd. So maybe if we get to the point where there could be crowds, this is an idea that we want to do. So that's the whole idea of hitting the support button. You can help us make that happen easier by, setting up the equipment, setting up the money for some of the bands to be able to do this that don't have the funds to do it. Getting webcams and stuff for them. They're better webcams, better mics, or better money to get to the venue to do that kind of thing. So yeah, we're looking to have like a Camp Flog Gnaw type of event. We not to Tyler, the creator, and Earl and all the Odd Future guys. We're totally into that. So yeah, again, check us out on all of our streaming platforms, and especially on SoundCloud and Spotify. Do hit that support button, even if you do 99 cents. That's cool. Everybody did 99 cents. That would help us a lot. So again, Fam Electric Ghost on SoundCloud or Spotify. Go to the COVID-19 support button. Hit that button. Give us 99 cents. That'd be cool. Thank you very much for listening to The Ghost. We'll talk to you later.